Russian troops launched a broad assault on Ukraine this week. President Joe Biden says the conflict will lead to a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. And as Sarah Whitmire reports, Ukrainians in the U.S. are keeping a close eye on the situation back home.
The situation in Ukraine has been escalating for quite a while. For at least a few weeks, the U.S. has been predicting that Russia's President Vladimir Putin would falsely claim that the rebel-held regions of Ukraine were under attack to justify an invasion. Olga Antonova fled to Zionsville a month ago with her 2 children and husband because she was fearful of a Russia invasion of Ukraine.
If not my children, I wouldn't come. I would stay in Ukraine because it's my homeland and no matter what's going on. But because I was afraid of their closing like the window of opportunities for us to leave.
Antonova is among the roughly 19,000 Ukrainians living in Indianapolis. More than 1 million Americans of Ukrainian descent currently live in the U.S. Antonova worked with the Mission to Ukraine to come to the U.S. The group provides resources such as food, medical services, and shelter for Ukrainian women, children, and those with disabilities in the state.
I think that most people are assuming that this is a new thing. That Russia just decided, but they've been occupying parts of the East and the South for 8 years now.
The organization has started an emergency fundraiser to help their relatives and friends who are still living in the Ukraine.
I am fearful for my friends, for my church, for my colleagues, and for all people of Ukraine.
Antonova hopes it's possible to go back home when it's safer.
The younger one is in middle school and the older one is in high school, and they need to go back to their studies and they need to go back to their classmates and to their normal life.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Sarah Whitmire.
Indianapolis ranks 7th in a list of cities in the United States with the largest Ukrainian populations. Well, we're joined now by Barbara Skinner, a professor at Indiana State of history and an expert on Ukraine, Russian history, and the Cold War. Welcome to the show, Professor Skinner.
Thank you very much.
So, many see Ukraine as a fledgling democracy. How important is it for the West to stand up for countries like Ukraine?
It's imperative. There are 2 big issues that are at stake here. And the first one is definitely the idea of supporting democracy against an autocratic regime. So Ukrainians share democratic values with the West. They have freedom of speech, freedom of the press, free and fair elections. And the Russian aggressor, of course, represents an autocratic regime that is anti-Western, anti-democratic, and pointedly anti-American, I should add. Putin has a real chip on his shoulder against the U.S. and often aims his talks right at the United States. So in Russia, you have no free speech, you have state control of the media, and if you want to oppose the regime, this opposition is suppressed by force. So we absolutely have to support those who promote our values, and that's Ukraine. But the bigger issue is the rules-based order in the post-World War II world. Vladimir Putin has willfully and unprovoked violated those international norms, and this really affects the entire world and creates a kind of uncertainty over our decades-old security norms that have been there since 1945. So those are the 2 big reasons why we have a big stake in this fight.
And let me jump in really quick. The U.S. and Western allies are imposing sanctions, but won't intervene militarily because Ukraine is not a NATO member. So what else can the West do to punish Russia and Putin for the invasion? And then does any of it matter?
Sanctions seem woefully inadequate, and we need to get our European partners to agree to some sanctions that are going to hurt them, probably more than will be hurt here in the U.S. But those measures are being considered. What I would like to ask is why is no one speaking about Belarus here? Belarus has served as a launching pad for the Russian assault on Ukraine, and they are fully complicit in this blatant violation of international law. So I think they need to be punished as well, and I hope that I'll see that.
Professor, thank you so much. We have to leave it there. Appreciate your time today.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.